Well, hello, 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 hello. Thank you so much for watching. This is Warren Redlick. We're going to be talking about number one thing we're going to talk about at the last part of the video is Tesla building a Terafab, a chip factory. We're going to do some Tesla news. We just had the shareholder meeting, and we're going to have the intervening period is Elon derangement syndrome. Just to give you a sense, you can see Elon here. This is where we're going to talk about Tesla news. If you're watching at the beginning and you're wondering where is what I want in the video, if you see this face, then we're in the Tesla news section. If you see Optimus, then we're going to be talking about Elon derangement syndrome or the Elon cult, which you see here. And then if you see Lord Farquaad, we're going to be talking about the Tesla Terafactory. So I've got Farzad here, Lord Farquaad here, but we're going to be talking about the Tesla Terafactory if you see this piece. So just to give you an outline of where we're going. So let's start with this clip from Elon.
I think we may have to do a Tesla Terafab. So it's like Giga, but way bigger. I can't see any other way to get to the volume of chips that we're looking for.
So what he talked about there is, I'm going to get into this in part 3 of this video. Again, you'll see Lord Farquaad when we're talking about that. Tesla is doing a lot. There's a lot of news we're going to go through here. And with all the things going on with Tesla, one of the things is they're going to need a really high volume of chips. And Elon went through, we've got TSMC making us chips. We've got Samsung making us chips. I think TSMC had 3 different fabs. Then we've got probably going to work out a deal with Intel to make some chips for Tesla. But through the volume that Elon wants for the volume of robots they're going to build, for the AI data centers they're going to build, they just need more chips than the suppliers can make. So they'll continue to buy chips from the suppliers, but they want to make more. So I think a lot of people talked about the idea of Tesla building a fab to make chips before. The differences between then and now is now we have a really clear picture of the volume of chips that Tesla's going to need is just so large. And I don't think we saw the AI data center component. Like they're probably going to send these chips out into space to orbit the sun for the Kardashev thing. Doing a fab earlier, Tesla wasn't producing enough products that would use chips in volume to use the full output of a fab. And it's going to be massive CapEx, and we're going to talk about that in part 3 of this video as well, when you see Lord Farquaad here instead of Elon. So let's just do some news first about what happened before or at the meeting, or at the start of the meeting. Tesla pumped out some news and some details I'm going to talk about a little bit here and there. 4680 supplies Cybertruck and will supply Semi and Cybercab. So that's news we didn't know. I thought Cybercab was going to use lithium iron phosphate iron cathode batteries instead of nickel batteries. It appears that Cybercab will use 4680, which means they do expect 4680 to be produced in very high volume. Hello, Amy. Hello, William. Hello, 144. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. Volume production of Tesla Semi designed for 50,000 units a year. I think they will hit that run rate at the end of next year is the hope. Scaled megapack production across Lathrop and Shanghai to greater than 80 gigawatt hours annually. That's a surprise. I didn't think they were greater than 80 gigawatt hours run rate yet, and apparently they are. And they're building the 3rd mega factory in Houston underway. That will start production in late 2026. So my guess is that they're going to have a total between all 3 factories at that point of about 150 gigawatt hours, which is a pretty big deal. And then wouldn't be surprised if they build another mega pack factory. I will still say, as someone who's in Thailand who's thinking about building a house and installing solar and battery backup, Tesla is very high priced for Powerwall. I think Tesla's high priced in America for Powerwall and solar, but not crazy high priced. But in Thailand, it's like 3 times as much money to get Tesla solar, to get Tesla Powerwall, compared to what you can get from the Chinese suppliers. So I would love to see Tesla build a Powerwall factory in China, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Hello, Robert. Thank you for saying hello. Okay. Good morning. It's almost bedtime for me here in Thailand. Okay. So other news, Cybercab purposely built for autonomy. production of Cybercab starting in April. They had a lot of information about Cybercab production. I didn't see it, but I believe they showed the line and the unboxed process, and we're going to see more here. But Optimus is a reconfiguration of existing Tesla technologies, AI hardware manufacturing. And then they say here at the bottom, pilot production line currently running in Fremont. They showed video of that. Significantly larger Gen 3 production line coming in 2026. Elon talked about that. I'll show you that in a minute. We're also testing in our factories and office spaces for real-time use cases, and our goal is $20,000 cost of goods sold per robot at scale. That's lower than what Elon said at the All In podcast. At the All In podcast, I think he said 25,000. You know, one of the big expenses in Optimus is going to be the chip. If you're going to put an AI5 chip or an AI6 chip in Optimus as you scale, if that chip is expensive, then that adds to the cost. Now the bot only has one, the car has two, but that may, going for 20,000. That's interesting. Or do they hope by going to a terafab they're going to scale production of chips to the point where they can actually get chips low enough cost to deliver an Optimus for $20,000 cost of goods sold? I don't know how important that is, because I think Optimus, if it's $25,000 cost of goods sold and you sell it for $100,000, I don't think that's that big of a deal, but it's interesting. Thank you, William, on geothermal heating. We're close to the equator here in southern Thailand, so solar is spectacular here, and we don't really need heating. I'm not sure what you meant by that, but we don't need heating in southern Thailand. It's like 80, like a low temperature is 80 degrees here.
And starting with building a 1 million unit production line in Fremont.
So that wasn't in the slide. Elon said, and I think we've heard this before, they are aiming for a 1 million unit production line in Fremont, that they're already starting to build that line. So that'll be next year. Let me rewind this.
And starting with building a 1 million unit production line in Fremont.
That's for Optimus, by the way.
That's line one. And then a 10 million unit per year production line here on the...
It gets better. Wait.
I don't know where we're going to put the 100 million unit production line. Maybe on Mars, I don't know. But I think it's going to literally get to 100 million a year, maybe even 1 billion a year.
So Elon has talked about this before. The value of Optimus is so high. And if you could produce them for $20,000 a unit, and keep in mind there'll be additional like when you get to 100 million units a year, let's say, or 10 million units a year, you're on Gen 4 or Gen 5 of Optimus, right? But the value, if it's able to replace a human worker, but on 2 shifts instead of 1, and maybe on 3 shifts, and the human worker in the United States was making $20 an hour, that's $40,000 a year for 2,000 hours, but it's working 4,000 or 6,000 hours. It's doing $120,000 of work a year, probably works for 10 years. It's $1.2 million in value. And it costs $20,000 or $25,000 to make. So there's sort of this question, like, we don't really know the answer to the question. Like, I think Elon believes you end up with sustainable abundance, and you just have, because that's what he talks about. You can see that's the words behind him on the screen, that there's basically unlimited demand for what Optimus will do, and that's where it goes. I wish he would leave California. I think that they have, just addressing Amy's point here, Tesla has substantial capital invested in California, and it doesn't make sense to leave California if what you're producing there is generating more value than your costs. So even, like, I've often said, why do they continue to make Model S and Model X? I mean, I love Model S and Model X, but they're not really relevant for the company anymore on a revenue generated compared to the whole company. They make, I don't know, less than 50,000 a year between them, and make 2 million cars. But I think they're still making a profit on the line, so why not keep making them? I don't know. And then you have the 1865 cell that they use. None of the Tesla's other products use 1865 cells. So you have these battery cells. You have nothing else to do with them. Everything's locked down. So you just make a little bit of extra money selling S's and X's. And then you have Lathrop is a very productive factory making megapacks. And a lot of the engineers want to be in California. That's another thing. Like you want to be located where people want to be. So a lot of the people who work for Tesla, like especially the AI engineers, they're in Palo Alto because they want to be there because it's kind of a cool place to live. 14.4 says issues are Tesla will not be the only robot game in town, and the regulatory environment may not favor robots across the country. It's not just across the country; it's across the globe. Mark Andreessen, if you're familiar with Mark Andreessen Horowitz, I think he created Mozilla, one of the early internet browsers. He said 80% of what robots are going to do is already illegal in Europe. So there are issues, but in terms of the only robot game in town, this is one of those things where I think people don't understand Tesla's advantage. You need a great hand. And I've watched lots of these demos of other robots. Nobody else is making a hand anywhere close to what Tesla's making. And the amount of engineering effort, this is where you have to understand who Elon is, what he does, and how he works. The effort to get the quality of hand that you need to do human level work. Nobody else is close to that. The real world AI that Tesla is developing, which is massive lead because of the cars, massive lead because of the AI training compute cluster, massive advantage because they have their own inference chip, and then the ability to manufacture complicated objects at scale. Nobody else in the game has any of that. So you'd say, oh, Tesla doesn't really have a lead. It's not a big deal. People will just copy them. Why hasn't anybody else landed it? Like we're 1 month away from the 10th anniversary of SpaceX landing its first orbital rocket booster. China has unlimited money, and they haven't landed an orbital rocket booster yet. Jeff Bezos is as wealthy as Elon when they started, and his company hasn't landed an orbital rocket booster. 10 years. So if you don't see it, Tesla has a 10-year lead in real-world AI. So let's see. When will we see the results of Elon accepting his 2018 pay package? I believe the board awarded him about a third of that already, and then we're waiting to see what happens with the Delaware courts. I'm not up to date on what the Delaware courts have done. I think the Delaware Supreme Court is still deciding that issue, but Elon's already got a third of that. So I don't think that's that big of a deal. It's a big deal. I want to see Elon get compensated, but that's going to pale in comparison to the new compensation package, which we're going to talk about a little bit in the Elon derangement syndrome section of this video. Okay, so this is from the transcript. I just want to go through this. They had video of the prototype production line, high volume production, which was a bunch of people putting together Optimus bots. The high volume production line was very automated, obviously. Once we reach about 1 million units per year of sustained production or in excess of that, I think the cost of production is around $20,000 in current year dollars. So this will be very affordable, like I said. Now, affordable in the sense that it will be affordable for them to build it. It might not be affordable for you to buy it because the demand from businesses is going to be very high for a long time. There's a lot of labor shortage. People don't realize there's a lot of labor shortages, number one. And I'm just going to tell you the story. I've told the story before. This is my napkin math on Optimus. Imagine you have a business like a warehouse or a fast food restaurant, and you've got 10 people on a shift. And the average employee makes, let's say, $20 an hour. Okay. If you're able to bring an Optimus in, and Optimus can't do everything that any one person does, but by having Optimus there doing a variety of tasks, you're able to go down to 9 people on the shift. You just saved $40,000 a year on that shift. And if you do 2 shifts, you saved $80,000 a year. And if Optimus works for 10 years and never improves, you've got $800,000 of value created. Now, how much are employers going to pay for that? They're going to pay more than $25,000 for that. They're going to pay more than $100,000 for that. Netscape, sorry, the ancestor. Did he call it Netscape or did he call it Mozilla? I don't remember that. I should remember that. I don't. Anyway, talking about Mark Andreessen. So, Elon said, I think Optimus will ultimately increase the size of the economy by a factor of 10 or more. When you have this technology, it unlocks. People think, oh, it's going to take away human jobs. Yes, it will. I'll just going to give you the example of why it might not. It might create more human jobs rather than fewer. Imagine you have a roofing company. This is one of my favorite examples. You have a roofing company and you're putting solar on roofs, right? Solar roofing company. Maybe you're putting solar panels on roofs. And you've got a job and you've got 10 guys on the roof. And now you put Optimus up there. You put 5 Optimus up there. You only need 5 guys on the job. And Optimus lowers your cost of doing the job because you save money on workers' comp and you save money on paying workers. And Optimus doesn't get in fights with his girlfriend. And there's you don't have all the problems that you have with workers a lot of times. Suppose it lowers your cost of doing the job by, let's just say, 30%. Okay, if you've ever shopped for solar project for your house or for a business, it's kind of on the line. Like, is it really worth it for us to invest in this? What are the interest rates? It's not quite attractive enough yet for a lot of businesses. But if you lower the cost 30%, a lot of the cost is labor. You lower the cost 30%, you might 5x the number of jobs, the number of roofs that people want to have it done on. So you cut the labor force in half on one roof, but you 5x the number of roofs that the company does. So you've actually 2.5x the number of jobs working on, doing solar panels on roofs. That's an example of how this could, and that's an example. There's many ways this could break out, but I think don't assume that it wipes out human jobs. It might create human jobs. Automated teller machines were supposed to destroy teller jobs. Teller jobs doubled because ATMs made banks so much more efficient. They built a lot more branches. And they had the tellers upscale to up the level of work that they did, so they produced more value. And you actually double the number of bank tellers when everybody thought it was going to destroy the bank teller jobs. Mosaic, the first graphical. Okay. Okay. So next year we start production with Optimus version 3. So that's when they start. They're going to start the 1,000,000 unit line next year, but they won't ramp to 1,000,000 units right away. Elon talked about that. When you see Optimus 3, it will seem as though there's someone like a person in a robot outfit, which is how he started. Okay. Then Optimus 4 will come. Optimus 4 starts production in 2027 and Optimus 5 in 2028. So he's got an aggressive cycle of significant improvements and increases in the quality of the robot, what it can do, and the scale of production. So Optimus 5 in 2028 might be the 10 million unit line in Texas, right? And Optimus, we don't know, when do they go to the 10 million unit line? When do they go to the 100 million unit line? And, if you think, well, everybody on Earth's going to want one, which it's not that simple, but let's suppose the average human wants one Optimus. Like, so some business is going to want 10, right? And there's a lot of poor people can't afford one. But if you assume that the average human wants one Optimus, that's 8 billion Optimus. If you make 100 million a year, it takes you 80 years to make enough. And of course, they die after 10 years. So you have to. So that's how you could conceivably scale up to 1 billion. And then you need them on Mars. You need them on the moon. You need them in orbit. There's a lot of potential for Optimus to do a lot of things. By what metrics do we assess Optimus's readiness to hit the market? So my personal opinion is there are use cases today. Another one of my examples is, let's suppose you have a building that you want security on and you currently have 10 guys walking around the perimeter. You replace 5 of those guys with Optimus robots, or 10 Optimus robots replacing 5 of the guys, right? And all Optimus does is walk around and relay what it sees into center and to the other staff. Optimus doesn't engage, doesn't fight anybody. It's just walking the perimeter and observing. It's not, there's a key distinction with Optimus. Okay, the real value of Optimus is going to be, number one, navigating space, being able to walk around in complex spaces, right? Cars already do that to some extent. Optimus will have to walk around in more complex spaces, but at slower speed, so it'll have more time to navigate. It won't be going 85 miles an hour with 4,000 pounds or 5,000 pounds, right? It's 125 pounds going 5 miles an hour. So the danger of it making a mistake isn't as big. But the big next level thing for Optimus is manipulating objects with its hands, because the cars don't manipulate objects, right? So that's a next level. That's like a probably 10x or 100x more complex problem to train for. But there are use cases where Optimus doesn't have to manipulate objects, and it's probably already commercially valuable in those use cases. And then there's simple things like you're in a warehouse and you pick up a box and move it over there. Some of these jobs are not going to be that hard, and Optimus will pick it up quickly. And I think the version 3, when they start producing them, not fully ramped, Tesla will be using all of them. I think they've said that the first 50,000 robots will be in house, and maybe they'll start partnering with somebody like Pepsi, because they partner with Pepsi on Semi. So maybe they partner with somebody like Pepsi, and some of their partners use them in warehouses. Warren, consider a cheap car with vehicle to load capability instead of power wall for your solar roof. No, I think you mean vehicle to house or whatever. No, we'll just get, not going to power wall. You get a BYD and other Chinese companies make battery backups. But the car isn't always plugged into the house, so that's not a useful backup. Let's see, Optimus picking up trash on highways and parks. I think we probably will see that. Okay. Hi, Jim. Okay, so we covered that. Let's move on. The scale and vision of Optimus. Let me make this bigger, and then we'll move it around. The scale of Optimus is going to be something else. It's going to be the biggest product of all time by far. It's bigger than cell phones, bigger than anything. But actually, Optimus will be better than R2D2 or C3PO. Okay. And so I think that covers Optimus. I think we all know that history. So a couple other things that came up in the meeting: the lithium refinery, which is in Galveston, Texas. It's not Galveston. Yeah, I think it's in Galveston. Corpus Christi. It's in Corpus Christi, Texas. It's south of Houston. South of West Houston. Houston's so big. The biggest lithium refinery outside of China, starting off at about 50 gigawatt hours of lithium. And we'll expand from there. So 50 gigawatt hours of lithium is a lot, right? Because Megapack, currently one Megapack factory is about 40 gigawatt hours of batteries. So if they're going to do 50 gigawatt hours and they're expanding, that means it's enough to do, let's say, the 4680 supply. And one of the challenges in the United States under Trump's tariffs is getting as much materials produced domestically as possible, so you're paying less tariffs. Then you got the cathode factory on site, so they're making sure that from a supply chain standpoint they're resilient against against potential geopolitical challenges. So Tesla has been ahead of this game compared to everybody else for at least a few years. I remember I was talking to somebody at Cyber Rodeo, which is 3 or 4 years ago now. One of the Tesla inside people was talking about supply chain, and you've seen it in some of the other events that they presented, how they have this whole logistics team, and they're just way ahead of everybody else on making sure they've got a secure supply chain. Talked about 4680 production. 4680. Now, Elon said maybe 4680 going to the dry cathode was a mistake. It would have been easier to do wet cathode, but it does look like they're getting ready to scale it. Will be used in Cybercab. It's being used in Cybertruck, also in Optimus. So Optimus is going to use 4680. And they're going to continue to get 4680 cells from suppliers as well. Take as many chips as our suppliers can provide us, but then beyond that, if they can't provide us incremental cells or chips, we have to make them ourselves. That's the Tesla Semi factory. It's going to be pretty cool to see these going down the road at scale. Sustainable abundance for all. Good morning, G. Harris McGraw. Good morning. So this is another big deal that I thought Elon said. I feel like he might be sandbagging here. Elon says we're going to push to expand vehicle production as fast as we possibly can. So aspirationally, we'd aim to increase vehicle production by about 50% by the end of next year. So maybe we get to an exit rate at the end of next year around 2.6 million, 2.7 vehicles annualized, then aim to get to maybe 4 million annualized rate by the end of 27, maybe 5 million by the end of 28. That seems low to me, because if you're starting your Cybercab production line in 2026, and Cybercab production line should be producing 2 million units a year, are you only making one Cybercab line? Aren't you making one in China? Are you growing Model Y and Model 3 production? It seems like there should be more. But, I think Elon's being conservative. I think he may be sandbagging here. We'll see. Aspirational goals, that means we're not really going to achieve that. If you know Elon, when he says those are aspirational goals, that means they're probably not going to get there. But the entire supply chain has to move in unison with that increase in volume. It's very difficult to get the whole supply chain on board with that kind of increase in volume. But the new chapter for Tesla's new book is massively increasing vehicle production and ramping up Optimus production faster than anything's ever been ramped up before in history. So that's the goal. And just one other thing, there was a question. There's a lot of other stuff in the shareholders meeting that I'm not covering, right? I'm just covering what I thought was significant that may have been missed by others. Because, Stephen, Mark, Ryan, Farzad, others, I'm sure others have already done summaries of the shareholder meeting. I want to give you a perspective on things I think other people might not have talked about. So we talked about space solar power, which for those who know my channel for long term, I started off with SpaceX and Tesla followed. I am much more of a space. I've seen like over 40 rocket launches. I'm a SpaceX junkie more than and I am a Tesla junkie. I have my third Tesla now, and I've driven 44,000 miles in a Plaid. Who knows how many miles I've driven on FSD? No FSD here in Thailand, but love my Model Y, my new Model Y. But I was a SpaceX junkie first, and I'm still more of a SpaceX junkie. So they talked about space solar power. It was a question from the audience, which I'm surprised they didn't just say we're not going to talk about that because it's a Tesla meeting, but Elon engaged. The cost of getting payload to orbit has been high, so there's no possibility of space solar power solving anything. Now with Starship, I see a path to Starship cost per ton to orbit being lower than air flight. And I've talked about this before, like if it's going to cost $10 a kilogram to send a payload into low Earth, to send something into low Earth orbit, that's less than the cost of sending like a FedEx across the country, and it gets there faster. That's pretty huge. But he thinks solar powered AI satellites, and this is where he went Kardashev. Okay, so if you're not familiar with Kardashev, the Kardashev scale is Kardashev 1 is using all the energy available on your planet. Kardashev 2 is using all the energy produced by your sun or in your solar system. And then Kardashev 3 is using all the energy produced in your galaxy. Right? So you're sort of skipping over. Kardashev 1 doesn't really make sense because if you used all the energy produced on your planet, you might cook your planet. That's tricky. And Elon talks about this. The guy was asking like use solar satellites and then beam the energy to Earth. And Elon said, well, if you produced enough energy in space and beamed it to Earth, you'd melt the Earth. Right? Because if you capture enough energy from the sun and you send that to Earth, you're just going to melt Earth. So that's not a viable solution. But Elon's going straight for Kardashev 2 here. It's going to take a long time to get there, but building satellites to capture as much energy from the sun as possible to power a network of AI satellites to build massive artificial superintelligence. So that's one of the craziest things that he talked about in the event. Now, he's talked about this before. If you followed it before, it's not that crazy, but it does seem crazy. 14 Forces, I'm waiting to see the Blue Origin flight that is launching soon. We'll see. Sorry, I missed something here. Not letting me scroll up. Let's see. Jim Whitehead says used Teslas are cheap, trading a hardware 3 Model Y for a used hardware 4 Model Y. I don't know if Grok is correct about the retrofit camera kit, so don't count on that. 14 Forces, I doubt they need 1 million in 2026 unless the versions after 14. No, it's not that they'll have 1 million in 2026. It's that they'll start the 1 million unit line in 2026. I think we're talking about Optimus. I'm not sure what you're referring to there. But it'll take a year or two to ramp Optimus. Optimus is going to be a challenging ramp because they've never done this before. Rob Markovich said, remember when the Tesla team said unboxed processed vehicles will be battery agnostic, might be needed to grow vehicles. I think they still will be battery agnostic, but that includes 4680. Yes, he's adjusting for the slowest part in supply chain. I agree. Outsiders don't understand Elon time. 100% B. I agree with that. Waiting to see the Blue Origin flight that is launching soon. We'll see. I think Grok is wrong. I think hardware 4 cars today are driving great at night, so I don't know what you're hearing there, Jim Whitehead. What is your thoughts on Tesla investing in SpaceX? I think so. Let's talk about this for a second because that's a really good question. I abstained on the XAI question, which is effectively a no vote. I don't think Tesla should invest in other companies. You're going to see in part 3 of this video that um, the capex that Tesla needs for the things that it is building are so great that Tesla doesn't have free cash to put into other companies. And SpaceX doesn't need Tesla's money, and XAI doesn't need Tesla's money. Elon doesn't have a problem raising money from investors. Harris McGraw says, seems Robotaxi would completely take over the delivery service market, giving the local. No. Robotaxi will completely take over all vehicle transportation, including cargo and passengers, within about 10 years, 15 years. In the United States, quicker. China, quicker. Some countries will be slow, like Europe. Elon is logically seeing us as space civilization hundreds of years ahead. Pure Star Trek level. Yes, absolutely. Grok may be wrong, but it said hardware 4. No. Yes, Grok is wrong. Hardware 4 is fine. Do I think the chip fab announcement was a bluff that gives the chip makers a kick in the ass? No. I think we're going to talk about that in part 3 of this video. The scale of chips they need is just outrageously large, and they can't count on others to supply them. It's mind-boggling how many chips they're going to need. Given all this news, including the Terafab, what price target are you estimating for the next 2 to 4 years? I don't use the word price target. I think it's going to be really hard. I haven't put my thought into what it does for the stock price yet. I actually haven't even thought about that question yet. Chip fab will burn a ton of. When you see the numbers of how much this chip fab is going to cost, you're not going to believe it. Sitting on $5 billion, we don't owe anyone anything. We're sitting on $41 billion, I think, $42 billion. Okay, so let's move on. We're going to talk now about Elon derangement syndrome and the Elon cult. So, for those who don't know, we have a cult. I frequently get accused of being an Elon cultist. You can see right here Brandon Flash, who loves his Model Y, but calls Elon fans a cult. I think it was because we voted for the compensation package, so therefore we're a cult. And I'll just say this plain and simple. Our Elon cult is better than your cult. Our Musk-Saya, I love this one, Musk-Saya, has a bold vision for the future. What is he doing? He's curing paralyzed and blind people with Neuralink. He's making science fiction real. If you've never watched a rocket launch, if you've never watched if you have the opportunity to go to Cape Canaveral for like a week and watch the rocket launches, and if you can time it so you can see a rocket booster returning to land, or especially a Falcon Heavy launch, and you see 2 boosters coming back, it's science fiction. It's real now. Science. Cars are driving themselves, and rockets are landing. He's making science fiction real. We're gonna have a moon base and a Mars colony. This is the Musk-Saya vision for the future. Fast tunnels with robot cars. Sustainable abundance. That's a nice vision for a Musk-Saya. Truth-seeking superintelligence. Like, what other superintelligence do you want? Universal high income. I'm not a fan of the universal high income bit, but that's Elon's vision, and that's a good Musk-Saya type of vision. Fast internet everywhere. Starlink delivers that. Clean energy. Megapack and solar deliver that. And free speech from X. So what's your cult's vision? What did your cult leader get done last week? I don't normally brag about this, but Elon liked this post. So, and we're going to talk about some of these retardos, who criticized Elon's compensation package next. We should get hats. Yeah, the cult needs hats. Elon cultist. I'm wearing my this isn't one of my Elon shirts. I cheat on my diet, but I don't cheat on my women. I think that's fair. When I made this shirt, I didn't have the joke is I don't cheat on my women, plural. And the funny thing is when I made the shirt, I didn't have any women at all. Couldn't get a girlfriend. So, Joyce Carol, I'm going to show you a series of people who criticize Elon's compensation package and criticize Elon in a variety of ways. So this Joyce Carol Oates, and Elon replied, I posted about this and Elon replied to this one. Not to her, but to what I said about her. She said, so curious that such a wealthy man never posts anything that indicates he enjoys or is even aware of what virtually everyone appreciates. Scenes from nature. He posts stuff like that all the time. Pet dog or cat. He has a pet dog that walks around Starbase with him. We've seen it on video. Praise for a movie, music, a book, but doubt that he reads. Like, what? Did you do any research at all on Elon before you decided to tell everyone how stupid you are? Elon in the shareholder meeting, he talked about the Ian Banks books. He frequently talks about the Ian Banks books. He frequently talks about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He talks about books about the Roman Empire. He talks about movies. I don't know if he talks about music much, but he dated Grimes, who's a musician. I think he actually didn't he make a really lame techno song at one point? Doubt that it's just like so stupid. Pride in a friend's or relative's accomplishment. He congratulates Kimball when Kimball does something. He congratulates what's his sister's name? Tallulah. Congratulates his mom. His mom does cool stuff. His friend, he's constantly saying congratulate. Bezos succeeds in launching a rocket. He says congratulations to Bezos. Condolences for someone who has died. I haven't noticed it, but he probably has. Pleasure in sports. He doesn't like sports, but he's been to some sporting events. Acclaim for a favorite team. Now, I just don't think he's a sports ball guy. He's not into sports ball. References to history. He was on the history podcast. I forget the guy's name. He was on a history podcast. He seems totally uneducated on culture. The poorest persons on Twitter may have access to more beauty in me life. Like, how stupid are you that you posted this without knowing anything about him? Like, did you read if you're so passionate about Elon Musk, read the Walter Isaacson biography. Right? It's not that hard. Read the Walter Isaacson biography. It's so hilarious that somebody would post this much vitriol, this much nasty stuff about Elon, and get it so wrong. It's borderline shocking that you would be this stupid. So here's another one. This one's a video.
Dollars, as you say, $1 million. That's an extraordinary
nice teeth.
Amount of money for someone who is ordinarily the richest man on the planet in any case.
It's not money, right? It's stock. I don't think he can sell it for 5 years after he gets it. He doesn't have any of it yet. Boy, his teeth are really bad. This guy, just really quick, his name is Tom Powdrill. Some interview with some London media outlet. Stewardship, work for it. Like, his LinkedIn profile is like a string of buzzwords. It's like a buzzword salad. And it's just so kind. You see these people like, what have you done? What did you get done last week? Have you ever built anything? Like, this guy's never done any. My personal interest has always been in the S and ESG. This is a DEI, ESG bullshit guy, labor and workplace issues. How about making stuff? How about making people's lives better? Building things that people will actually use. But anyway, this guy's just unbelievably stupid.
It really does beg a belief that anyone needs that amount of money. What's particularly, galling about it is...
Okay, so let's be clear. Elon doesn't need the money. He said it's not about the money. It's pretty obvious he doesn't need that amount of money. Elon wanted this compensation package so he can increase his share of ownership of Tesla, so he can have more control over the company, so that when they build the robot army, he's confident that he has sufficient control of the robot army, that retards like this don't end up getting control of the robot army. That Wall Street types or activist types like this don't get control of the robot army, because who knows what they would do with it.
He's already had enormous incentive awards, and it hasn't kept him even focused on Tesla, right?
The lie that Elon hasn't been focused on Tesla. If you haven't seen it, I would encourage you. I think it was on Diary of a CEO podcast. Could have been Chris Williamson, Modern Wisdom. But Mark Anderson was interviewed, and he described how Elon puts his time into his companies. And the idea that Elon hasn't paid attention to Tesla is false. It's a very popular idea, even among Tesla fans and Elon fans. They don't understand how Elon works. Elon has been putting a lot of time into all his companies. Yes, he was off busy with Doge at one point. Yes, he was busy with X at one point. But he has put a tremendous amount of time into all his companies, including Tesla. He's very efficient at how he uses his time. He's very effective with his time. Not Tallulah, Tosca Musk, I think. Yeah, okay. That's her name. Let's keep going with Tom.
been, he's got himself involved in politics in the US. He's got SpaceX, he's got Grok, all these other things. And indeed, just looking at Twitter this morning, all his tweets are about Grok, this AI company he's sort of set up. It's not about Tesla, even
because he has multiple companies. And, Grok is integrated into the X platform. And Grok is doing some cool stuff. Like, more stuff is happening with Grok right now than is happening with Tesla right now. Tesla's stuff is coming, but Grok, imagine, is improving on the fly, and people are using it. And I use it. So, they had the shareholder meeting. What is he going to tweet about? What is he going to post about on X today that he didn't already cover last night at the event? He doesn't need to post about what he already talked about. But that's your, he's not posting about Tesla today? What's your point? Like, he's run multiple companies successfully. What have you done?
after he's been given this, or the shareholders approved this big award to him, he's not
Given this. He was given this. Given. Not earned. See, I'm sorry, I'm going to swear right now. These fuckers don't believe that anyone earns anything. They don't believe that a guy like Elon has earned it. And it really sets me off. Okay? Go fuck yourself. You haven't done shit. Go look at what Elon has accomplished in his life, and what have you accomplished in your life? You can't even get your fucking teeth straight. I really pisses me off.
Albert Einstein. He's not Thomas Edison. This, or the shareholders approved this big award to him. He's not Albert Einstein. He's not.
Look, I love Albert Einstein, but what the fuck did he build? Elon doesn't pretend to be Albert Einstein. And he says he's not Thomas Edison.
Not Thomas Edison. He does not.
Yeah, yes, actually, he pretty much is Thomas Edison on steroids. He's very similar to Thomas Edison, if you think about it. Thomas Edison is one of the closest analogs you can find to Elon. And then here comes the one of the dumbest
Einstein. Not Thomas Edison. He does not design and build robots. He gets people to do that for him.
No, Elon, like, he's very involved in the production of what his companies make. He's very involved in the software. He's very involved in the hardware. He's very involved in all kinds of aspects of all his companies. People have been saying this about Elon from the beginning. Oh, he doesn't do anything. He just hires people. Well, Jeff Bezos had more money. Created a rocket company. Did Elon just hire better people by accident? How do you explain that SpaceX has done like 500 rocket landings and Blue Origin has put one payload into orbit? Jeff Bezos had more money. Jeff Bezos hired people. Maybe Elon's better at hiring people, but maybe he's actually deeply involved in the engineering of his companies. He's deeply involved in the engineering of Optimus. And that's, again, if you watch the Mark Andreessen bit where he talks about how Elon's method, you understand it better. But this idea that Elon doesn't do anything, Elon is very, very involved in the design and engineering of what Tesla does and what the other companies do.
Does build robots. He gets people to do that for him. Mm-hmm. Other people could lead that company. And
Who? And let me be very clear about this. Okay? If Elon left Tesla tomorrow, let's say the vote had gone against him or the board fired him, the top engineers of Tesla would leave quickly. Tesla would collapse. They probably would be able to continue making cars. They would probably continue to make megapacks, but the innovation would be gone. People and top engineers want to work for Elon because he creates a great environment to do great things. Who? You going to put John fucking Scully in there? Oh, you get somebody else to lead the company. You have no idea what you're talking about. And look, I've invested in Tesla heavily since 2016. That's like 9 years, more than 9 years now I've been invested in Tesla. I've invested my money, I've invested my time, I've invested my attention, I've invested my research. I know a hell of a lot more about Tesla than Turdball here. Okay? I know what I'm doing. I approved this compensation award. I approved the last one. I approved the one, I've been approving the compensation awards. Who the hell are you to say that I shouldn't be able to approve a compensation award for the CEO of the company that I'm invested in? Who is this fucking guy?
Other people could lead that company. And, you've got to think as well with Tesla that his involvement in far right, frankly, politics in around the world has inevitably reduced the amount of Teslas that get sold. You can see that in Europe, the amount of Teslas getting sold has reduced. And part of that is because of the things he.
Tesla Model Y is the best-selling car in the world. How do you explain that? What's far right mean? Far right means he believed that men and women are different, that there's two genders instead of 740. That's far right. That, terrorists are bad and liberal democracies and that Western civilization is good. What is this far right ideology that Elon espouses that really has Elon come out and said we should ban abortion? Because I haven't seen him say that. Has he said we should ban gay marriage? Because maybe is it far right to say that we shouldn't allow gender affirming care or surgery on children to sterilize them? Is that really far right? Like it's just these I just get fed up with these people. But buzzword salad. Look at who do these people think that they are? Right? Social Governance Solutions, University of Humber. I've never even fucking heard of Humberside. Who do you think you are to talk this way? Just absolute freaking nobody. All right, we got more. We got a senator. Senator Retardo got no balls. Senator Retardo got no balls. Complained about Elon. First of all, he mentions Emerald Mine Elon. Like that story is so old and so proven wrong so long ago. Like what? But he complains in this post about Elon benefiting from tax incentives. But right here, he bragged about the Chips and Science Act as a huge win for Texas and America. Tech companies are doubling down on their investments in our state. So you wanted tech companies to invest in your state. You created incentives for them to do so. And Elon does so, and you complain about Elon benefiting from the incentives you created to attract him to your state. Retardo got no balls. I think it's Roland Gutierrez, but I'm calling him Retardo got no balls. Elon flipped on this guy. Here's Elon's response to this turd. Elon says, you're a taker, not a maker. This is, I think, straight out of Ayn Rand. Atlas Shrugged. Roughly out of Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged, your fountainhead. You're a taker, not a maker. All you've done in your whole life is take from the makers of the world. And that's true. This politician, he's like, he actually, Retardo got no balls is an immigration lawyer who's created like one job for like a secretary who works for him, I think. And his job is to help illegal aliens stay in the country. That's what his law firm does, right? The zero-sum mindset you have is at the root of so much evil. Once you realize that civilization is not zero-sum and that it is about making far more than one consumes, then it becomes obvious the path to prosperity for all is just let the makers make. So I just said makers make life better for all. Without makers, we are doomed. The working class actually understands this. Again, in Ayn Rand's book, the workers understand the guy who runs the company is making a huge difference and they support him. But you get these leeches from outside who start saying this is wrong. So the working class understands that makers make. You have to get a lot of education to unlearn that. It's another one. Neil Seibart. Remarkable how Tesla fumbled the EV market over the past 2 to 3 years. CEO tuned out a lot of percentage of his customer base with politics. That is just massively false. Did he lose a few Democrats? Yeah. But if you look at it, what percentage of American car buyers care that much? 5%, 10% maybe? Well, what percent of them were going to buy a Tesla in the first place? It's a very small impact. And Model Y is the best-selling car in the world. How do you explain the customers are all turned off, but Model Y is the best-selling car in the world? It doesn't make sense. Not using hybrids, as I almost fell out of my chair when I saw this one. Not using hybrids as a bridge for ICE vehicle owners to transition to EVs was a mistake. How dumb are you? Like, Toyota started with hybrids. Look where they are. They're still on fucking hybrids. Hybrids are not a bridge. Stale product line at a time when people are craving for a rethought design. Model Y is the best-selling car in the world. Is it stale? Is it stale to be the best-selling car? They just refreshed Model 3. They just refreshed Model Y. Cybertruck is stale. Cybertruck came out recently. Model S and Model X have been refreshed. Model S is one of the fastest cars on the planet. It's one of the best bargains you can get for fast cars. Model X Plaid, similar. Like Model X Plaid is nothing like it. There's still nothing like it. Bad risk meeting of customers. Cybertruck is a giant flop. No, the problem with Cybertruck isn't a misreading of the customer. It's the price point. It's too expensive. And they're probably not going to be able to get the price down. And I think they said, this was, bad. I don't think Elon would brag and say Cybertruck was a huge win. Moved into follower mode to Waymo with self-driving. Oh, yeah, because Tesla adopted LiDAR? What are you talking about? We're still a long way from self-driving anywhere at any time. Like, hence Tesla's shift to humanoid robots, which aren't anywhere close to being ready for mass market usage. Who are these people? I don't understand. And why he's recirculating his essay why Musk should step down as Tesla's CEO. Yeah. Like, look, I don't want my stock to fall 80%. I want Elon to stay. Thank you. It's really nice for you to care about my company that I've invested in, our company that we've invested in, that you're going to tell us that our CEO should step down. No, we want our CEO to stay. If Elon stepped down, the stock would collapse. The company might collapse. Thanks. I'll keep Elon as CEO. Thanks for your help. You're retarded. So many people I've seen, Elon's getting $1 trillion in cash. So Tesla has $42 billion in cash on hand from the last quarter. If you think Tesla is paying Elon $1 trillion in cash tomorrow because it just got approved by then you should reconsider your choice of media. They're not giving $1 trillion in cash. If over time he accomplishes the goals set forth in the compensation package, then he gets options that he can exercise, pay Tesla money, I think it's $380 a share, something like that, to acquire the stock. And then he has to hold it for 5 years after he exercises. So he doesn't get cash. And he pays a crap ton of taxes. He probably has to spend cash in order to do this. It's absurd. Bernie Sanders whined about it. I think AOC whined about it. I just had this idea. Elon's got a performance-based compensation package. Let's offer Congress a deal. If you guys can double real GDP, not nominal GDP, but real GDP in 5 years, every member of the House and Senate gets 0.01% of the increase in GDP, which would be a $30 trillion increase in real GDP. So each member would get $3 billion. But if you fail, you get zero pay. Do you think Bernie would go for that? Do you think Mitch and AOC would go for that? Well, they know they can't double GDP because they would have to alienate their basis to actually do things that would make the economy grow. Right? And Bernie's a commie. Bernie doesn't want the economy to grow. AOC doesn't want the economy to grow. And they wouldn't trust each other to work together to get the economy to grow. But so Elon is working on a performance-based compensation package, right? These guys would never work on a performance-based compensation package unless they were able to rig the results. All right. And then just for fun, the Intifada, the AI Intifada. I just had fun with Grok and took an Optimus robot from the Tron event and put a Palestinian scarf. I said a keffiyeh, and Grok did something weird with it. So I just had a Palestinian scarf and we got this. I thought this was kind of funny, an Intifada. Lord Farquaad is a character from Shrek, Lord Farquaad. I'm just making fun of Farzad, but that's coming. We're not there yet. We're getting there. I guess we can move there now. So the point about Farzad has been off kilter recently. And this is my joking mocking of Lord Farquaad. Lord Farzad, this is a play on Lord Farzad from Shrek with an attempt to render this. I think Grok helped me make this, put Farzad's features on the face of Lord Farquaad. And this is the point. Content creators. I'm a content creator. Farzad's a content creator. Stephen Mark Ryan, Dave Lee, etc. We're content creators. We talk into cameras and tell you what we think about things. We have a tendency to think we're smarter than we are, and it gets worse as our following gets bigger. Now, I just want you to know I'm immune to this because I am a lawyer and I'm a graduate of elite universities, Rice University and Stanford University. So I already thought I was smarter than I am before I was I was a lawyer for all these years with a master's from Stanford and a bachelor's degree from Rice University. So I already thought I was smarter than I am before I became a content creator. So it doesn't affect me. No, but seriously, if you watch some of the content creators, Ben Sullins is a really good example of this. I think Gary Black, Ross Gerbil, Barry Black and Ross Gerbil, Gary Black and Ross Gerber, they start to think, I call it smarter than Elon disease sometimes. I just think that Farzad is heading down that road. I think Gali from Hyperchange went down that road. Dave Lee has never gone down that road. Stephen Mark Ryan has never gone down that road. I don't think I've gone down that road. I don't think Rob Maurer went down that road. But some content creators get full of themselves and think they're better than they are. This was, by the way, this was an attempt to make me. I'm not trying to make fun of somebody else with this picture. This was me asking Grok to make someone who looked like me, and that's what it came up with. So if you think I'm making fun of somebody else with this picture, no, this was supposed to make fun of me. Okay, so let's talk about the chip fab. Before we talk about, we're going to talk about the chip fab. Let's just see in the chat. Jayanta says Tesla is doing robotaxi and Optimus for the last 5 years, and there's no real progress. Very unlikely these projects will be successful. Well, there are robo-taxis in Austin and California now, and there weren't before. So what do you mean by no real progress? And Optimus is not the last. I don't think Optimus is 5 years. I think Optimus is 2 or 3 years. And I saw Optimus catch a tennis ball. Can you show me another humanoid robot that's caught a tennis ball? There's a lot of great progress with it. Just because you don't see the progress doesn't mean it's not there. Yes, Farzad caught smarter than Elon disease. When Elon hits all of his tranches, I'm told I was lucky I became wealthy. Yeah. So let's touch on one thing. Elon will be a trillionaire with or without the compensation package. If Tesla hits his $8.5 trillion market cap, Elon owns, I think, 13% now, and I think with his other compensation, he'll own like 15 or 18% of Tesla. 13% of 8.5 trillion is $1 trillion. Elon owns about half of SpaceX. SpaceX is going to be a $2-3 trillion company. He's going to have $1 trillion net worth on SpaceX alone. Neuralink is going to be insane. I think Neuralink might be his most valuable company of all. He owns like 90% of Neuralink. Like Neuralink, think about what's the customer base for replacing iPhones with a chip in your brain that's 100 times better than an iPhone. Everyone's going to want one. It allows you to keep up with the AI, like it just absolutely stunning. And so you could make 100 million a year, but then people would want an upgrade every 3 years. It would take 80 at 100 million a year. It would take 80 years to get everyone on the planet on Neuralink. So the market for Neuralink is insane. It's probably $10,000 a pop. Like, do the revenue numbers on that. It's crazy. So yeah. So Elon will be a multi-trillionaire with or without the compensation package. It's not about the money, it's about the control. And I think to the extent that it is about the money will fund Mars, but I think Starlink is going to fund Mars anyway. And funding the fleet of AI satellites going out into space and all that. How does FSD knows how to park in an assigned parking spot in a multi-floor garage? I think that's a feature that's being developed. But I know it's already operating in parking garages. I've seen. I believe it's already operating in parking garages. And so yeah. If Elon gets $1 trillion pay package, it means my stock went from $400 a share to $2,500 a share. So go Elon. I hope Elon gets really, really wealthy. The Neuralink is an interface, not a computer. There's a computer chip in there. The current Neuralink is not much of a computer, but there's a chip. We'll see. I don't think we know where Neuralink is going. It is a brain machine interface. I think there's some compute on the chip. I'm not 100% sure of that. Don't hold me to that. I know they have to worry about heat. They don't want too much heat inside the skull. So let's talk about chips and the Terafab. So the point of having Lord Farquaad here is not really to make fun of Farzad, but to talk about chips. And so if you're watching now, we're going to talk about chips now. So Elon, this is a while ago. Elon said just finished a long. This is not 5 hours ago. This is a few days ago. Just finished a long AI5 design review. Going to be great. AI6 and AI7 will follow in fast succession. AI8 will be out of this world. I think out of this world means AI8 is the one that's going on the satellites that are orbiting the sun to create the AI superintelligence in the sun. Chip design review continues tomorrow. So then in the transcript of the shareholder meeting, this is transcript of the shareholder meeting. So in the shareholder meeting, Elon talked about putting a lot of time into the new Tesla chip design. Because to have a functional robot, you have to have a great AI chip. It needs to be inexpensive chip, needs to be very power efficient. So the AI5 chip will be about a third of the power of something like the Blackwell, NVIDIA Blackwell B200, which is a great chip, for roughly comparable performance and much less than 10% of the cost. This is why one of the reasons Tesla needs a chip fab. Because currently they're giving 75% margin to NVIDIA for the chips they buy from NVIDIA. I think they're going to continue to buy chips from NVIDIA, but if they're going to scale their chip demand, they want to get as many chips as they can without paying a 75% margin or 60% margin or whatever to some other chip maker, so they make their own chips. So this is a chip that's optimized for Tesla's software stack, not meant to be a general purpose chip. That's a challenge for NVIDIA. NVIDIA has to make chips for everybody. Tesla makes chips for itself, so it's more focused. I think it allows them to eliminate things from the chip that they don't need. They have integer focus instead of floating point focus. There's a lot of different features there. He says it here. We have an integer-based system. Integer operations are fundamentally more efficient than floating point operations. But if you train for integer inference, that's an important detail. We're going to get into more of this in a minute. Chip will be made in 4 places. TSMC, that's Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation, Taiwan. Samsung Korea, TSMC Arizona, TSMC Texas. We already know what improvements to make for AI6. So within less than a year of AI5 starting production, we can actually transition in the same fab to AI6 and double all the performance metrics. So I think these fabs are going to be 3 nanometer fabs. That's the fineness of the chips. And we're going to talk about nanometers later in this video. Elon's super hardcore on chips right now. Dream about chips. So now one of the things I'm trying to figure out is how do we make enough chips? A lot of respect for Tesla partners, TSMC and Samsung. Maybe we'll do something with Intel. But even when you extrapolate the best case scenario for chip production from our suppliers, it's not enough. So I think we may have to do a Tesla Terafab. Terafab. We have Gigafactory. We have Megafactory for Megapack. Megapack being, a large battery storage device. So now we're going to Terafab, so bigger than Giga. Can't see any other way to get to the volume of chips we're looking for. So I think we're going to have to build a gigantic chip fab. Got to be done. So that's not a we think we might do it. Got to be done. Tesla's going to be building a chip fab. So there was a question from the audience about it. So Semiconductor Terafactory, we're buying all the chips we can from them. It's a money printing machine for TSMC and Samsung. Like the faster you make the chips, the faster we send the money, but they're still not going fast enough. So the only option is to build a big chip fab. And he says, so I guess Tera would be, you'd want to say it's got to be at least 100,000 wafer starts per month size fab. Okay, 100,000. Pay attention because we're going to go into this with Grok in a minute. All right, I went into this with Grok, and I'm going to show you the conversation with Grok about 100,000 wafer starts per minute per month size fab. And that would be maybe 1 of 10 in a complex. So ultimately 1 million wafer starts per month. This is really, really monstrous, and I'll show you that in a minute. And as you can tell when it gets the Gigafactory, it's probably a good sign we're onto something special. But I wouldn't be surprised if long-term it's like 1 million wafers a month. Okay, long-term. That's not next year. That's not 3 to 5 years. That's probably 10 years away. Got to remember Elon time when he talks about stuff like this. Okay, so I had a conversation with Grok to wrap my head around this, and I think Grok is pretty accurate here. I said, how many wafers a month does the most advanced chip factory make? And the answer was TSMC's factory in Taiwan has a monthly capacity of over 100,000 12-inch wafers, which is larger than TSMC Arizona, 24,000 wafers a month on 4 nanometer, or Samsung Intel. So that's 3 nanometer, formerly 5 nanometer. Samsung, Intel plants, typically 30,000 or less per fab. So the 100,000 wafers per month is not insane because TSMC is already doing that. Okay, just so we're starting there. Now, I think, on the other hand, this may be like multiple lines, and Elon's talking about one line, but it gives you some idea. So then here's my question. What was the CapEx for that fab? $60 billion. Okay, so when I say I don't want Tesla to invest in XAI because I want Tesla to invest in Tesla's business, and Tesla has $42 billion in cash, and Elon's talking about building Tesla's own fab, and the most advanced fab in the world, which presumably Elon wants to do better than the most advanced fab in the world, but the most advanced fab in the world costs $60 billion in CapEx. We don't have $60 billion in CapEx available for CapEx yet. Now, Tesla's cash is going to grow. I don't think he's going to start building the fab yet, but at some point they're going to have to do that. Then I asked, are 2 nanometer chips coming soon? Will CapEx be higher for those? Grok says, yes, they're coming soon. And they're estimating CapEx will be higher for 2 nanometer fabs. 50,000 wafer per month would be estimated at 28 to 30 billion. That's 60 billion for 100,000 wafers per month. I'm not sure Grok is perfect there because I thought 60 billion was the cost of the TSMC fab. That's 3 nanometer. Is something smaller than 2 nanometers. This is sort of looking ahead to when Elon says they're going to build their own fab. What are they targeting? Is he targeting a 3 nanometer fab, a 2 nanometer fab? I have a feeling he's thinking about going even smaller than 2 nanometers. So sub 2 nanometer nodes are expected in the future. TSMC is going for 1.6 nanometer class, and then 1.4 nanometer. Intel's going for 1.4 nanometer, and Samsung's going for 1.4 nanometer, all in 2027. These use gate-all-around nanosheets, backside power delivery, blah, blah, blah. Will there be higher CapEx for those? And so it's estimating for a 1.4 nanometer class fab, 35 to 40 billion for 50,000 wafer starts per month. Well, now you're talking about 80 billion for 100,000 wafer starts per month if you go there. Mhm. Yeah, I think that we are starting to see 2 nanometer chips already. If Tesla builds a 1.4 nanometer fab in Texas starting in 2027, 100,000 wafer per month line would need close to $100 billion in CapEx, and Grok agrees. So we're really not talking about $60 billion in CapEx for the first line producing 100,000 wafers per month, 100,000 wafer starts per month. We're really talking about maybe $100 billion CapEx. So I guess a breakdown here. And I'm not saying Grok is perfect, but this is sort of like to give you order of magnitude. Could I explain the nanometer thing? Smaller is better. Sure, you have a chip. Let's see if I have an image of that. See if I have an image of that. Here we go. Okay, so you see a chip here. Now, you see the chip here. On the chip, there's a lot of features. When you go to smaller nanometer scale, what you're doing is you're able to etch smaller and smaller features so you can pack more on the chip. And also the smaller nanometer, the smaller the components on the chip, the more energy efficient the chip tends to be. As you advance the technology, you're able, this has been going on for decades now. They figured out how to make the components on the chip smaller, allows them to squeeze more transistors onto the chip, more features onto the same size chip. So you're able to get more intelligence, for lack of a better term, more power, more capability, more compute onto the same size chip or onto the same size wafer because you have multiple chips on a wafer. Does that, I hope that answers the question. Where were we? Okay. So as you go from 3 nanometer to 5 nanometer to 3 nanometer to 2 nanometer, 1.2 nanometers, whatever, the smaller the nanometer number, the more capability you're including on the same size chip, and maybe the more energy efficiency you're getting as well. They're going to need about 2 years lead time if their goal is to build a chip factory. Well, don't forget Tesla builds fast. And Elon's companies move fast. Don't forget that. That the other chip makers went, oh crap, now our best customer is going to compete with us a little bit. No, I don't think it's a question of competition. They're going to buy everything you can make, but they're going to produce. Their demand is so high you can't make enough for us, so we're going to make our own. TSMC etches first 2 nanometer silicon at Fab 22, October 7th, 2025. Yeah, so they've just started, and that they're not scaled yet. They're just getting started. Yes, quantum effects become an issue when you get small. There's all kinds of challenges at getting the features down smaller, but chip engineers have been facing these challenges for decades and they keep doing better. Do I think the election of Mamdani will affect the stock market? No. Samsung paid 19 billion for their chip factory, but their chip factory doesn't produce as many wafers. It's not as large of a factory. I think that was covered. I think Grok covered that. It's about a quarter the size of what Tesla wants to build. And it's not the most advanced it's not like 1.2 nanometer, 1.4 nanometer. I think it's like a 3 nanometer fab. Okay. So coming back to this. So I suggested, what if Tesla did a 1.2 nanometer, 100,000 wafer starts per month fab in Texas? It's saying 2029. I have a feeling more like 2027, 2028. Estimated CapEx maybe $130 billion. Right? I just want to get to the point of like Tesla's going to be investing a lot of money in this. If Tesla decides to build a fab, and it looks like they've decided to build a fab, again, I don't think they start this. They're not starting this in 2026, but maybe in 2027 they start building out the fab. So if Tesla builds a fab with 100,000 wafer starts per month, how many AI chips might fit on a AI6 chips might fit on a wafer? Grok is estimating 110 to 130 AI6 chips per wafer. Keep going here. Let's call it 100 chips per wafer, 100,000 wafers per month, and we get 10 million chips per month, or about 100 million per year. Is that in the ballpark of a sane number? Grok says yes. If you're making 100,000 wafer starts a month, you get 10 million chips per month, or about 100 million chips a year. Maybe it's 120 million, but we're in the ballpark. Okay. And then if you do 10 lines, right, you're doing 1 billion chips a year. So now the question is, what do you do with 1 billion chips a year? Right? You're making 100 million Optimus a year. That's 100 million. You got 900 million left over. You got 20 million cars with 2 chips each. That's another 40 million. What are you doing with 1 billion chips a year? Selling them to Starlink for AI satellites, AI data centers on Earth and in space. Did I get the $2,000 tariff money already? I don't know what you're referring to there. Sorry. After ramping up the Terafab, couldn't they also supply chips for other companies and dominate TSMC? No, I don't think that's the plan. I think the plan is to use everything that they make for themselves. Did I get the $2,000 tariff money already? Who's rude? We can officially put the dividend and stock buyback requests to bed. It ain't happening. Yeah, you're not getting dividends and you're not getting stock buybacks. The Tesla's now. This is another detail. Right? What are we expecting in terms of cash flow? Right? Tesla robotaxi is getting started. Now, if you followed me before, you know where this is going. If Tesla has, I think Tesla gets to 10 million robotaxis 2029, maybe 2030. They have 10 million robotaxis on the road, making $50,000 a year in gross profit each. Right? You're 20 cents a mile cost, selling rides for $1 a mile. It's pretty easy to make $50,000 a vehicle on that. Even at, I think, 70 cents a mile, you're getting close to it. Then the volume just goes crazy when you get down to 70 cents a mile price. If you have 10 million vehicles making $50,000 a month, that's $500 billion a year in gross profit. That money's going into building a chip fab. That money's going into build Optimus lines. That money's going to all this stuff. I think that Robotaxi starts printing cash before Optimus. I think once Optimus starts printing cash, and that enables you to build your chip fab. I don't think they have the cash. Now, they could borrow money, or maybe they'd get some sort of partnership with the U.S. government. Maybe they get some other investors. I don't think they're going to have other investors, but maybe they just borrow to finance building the chip fab, but I don't think they're starting that soon. I think they're going to wait until they build the cash pile up bigger. We'll see. Trump wrote he will give every American $2,000 from tariffs revenue profit. Trump says a lot of stuff. I mean, I don't really spend my time worrying about what Trump says. I don't know why people do. The guy. Look, he's done some good things. He's done some stupid things. He said a lot of stupid crap. He said some good stuff. Who cares, right? Is he better than Otto Pan? I think he's a better president than Otto Pan. Don't data centers in space require space stations they can service now and then, at least by robots? No. Data centers would be small satellites on the scale of Starlink, the next generation Starlink size, with lots of solar panels and lots of radiator hardware so they can radiate the heat that they're generating. And then they're networked by lasers. And if a satellite goes down, the satellite goes down. And you just use next satellites. Stupid is as stupid does, exactly. So that's what's coming, right? Terafab. I think Terafab is a big story that not a lot of people are talking about yet. Yes, computation will be done in space. Tesla will make the chips for the satellites. Nailed it. Yes, exactly. Cauliflower is better than an auto pen. I think a cauliflower has more complexity to its surface than Joe Biden's brain. If you want Tesla dividends, TSLY yield max. Okay, I am not a fan of TSSL, TSLL, TSLY, none of that stuff. I avoid that stuff. Now I buy Tesla options, so I am thinking about making a short series of videos, like 3 videos about my Tesla option strategy. I'm thinking about making a change to my Tesla option strategy in the near future. And that will be for YouTube channel members, ex-subscribers, and supporters on Patreon and the Daily Lie. Probably like 3 videos just talking about what I'm doing on options now and what I'm changing, what I'm likely to change to. So not a huge change. Grid fins. No megapacks in orbit. No, I don't think that's coming. I think we will see megapacks on the moon. We will see megapacks on Mars. I think ideally, Elon talked about manufacturing the satellites on the moon. There's all kinds of great. It's past my bedtime, Mark. We're about 20 minutes past my bedtime already, and I didn't sleep well last night, so I'm really tired. But I'm doing okay right now. I get pumped for the live stream. It makes it harder for me to fall asleep, though. AI satellites parked at Lagrange point 1. No, I believe the plan would be to actually orbit the sun, and basically, if you want to capture all the sun's energy, you have to have as many satellites as possible in orbit around the sun at varying orbits to try to capture all the sun's output in the long run, which would take. I don't know if there's enough mass in the solar system to put enough satellites around the sun to capture all of it. I'm not sure how that would work. So when I start making those videos, which I'm not doing, it's not on my list of things to do next week. Let's put it that way. But when I do that, I will let people know, hey, for YouTube channel members, ex-subscribers, supporters on the Daily Lie and Patreon, there will be some options videos there. The Dyson Swarm will need a lot of chips. Yeah, exactly. You need a crazy amount of chips. So, anyway, great news that Elon got his compensation package. I voted for it. Very excited about that. Solar on the moon will be huge. Yes, Solo. So, all right. So thanks everybody so much for watching. I'm going to wrap this up now because we're way past my bedtime. And best wishes to Lord Farquaad. He'll probably continue to appear in my videos for a while until I get bored of him. So thanks everybody so much. And thanks to Mark and Solo.